Everyone knows that Justin Herbert is one of the best young quarterbacks in football, but injuries all over the team have made it really difficult for him to pop off this year. And yet he's somehow leading LA to a potential playoff run. So how did this happen?
Moving up nicely, getting away from Billings, downfield, he's got him again!
The injury bug hit LA this year, and hit them big, as it seems like every star player outside of Herbert has been out for at least some time. On the defensive side, studs like Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and the struggling JC Jackson have had their own problems. While on the offense, guys like Keenan, Mike, Slater, and a few tight ends have been in and out of the injury report. There have been countless games where Justin has thrown to a wide receiver 4, 5, or even 6s. So the fact that the team has been able to do this well is pretty crazy. But even though Justin has led the team to a potential playoff berth, this season has been up and down nonetheless for Herbert and the gang. So the fact that they have been hanging around 500 the entire time makes things look very good now that studs like Keenan and Mike Williams are back and looking as good as ever. There are not many quarterbacks, let alone young studs like Justin, who could lead a team to a spot like this. And so with all this in mind, I think the Chargers are quickly becoming one of the most interesting teams in the AFC. If you combine their recent success with how open the playoffs seem to be this year, it's looking like the Chargers will only get more and more interesting nearing the end of the season. And honestly, I think that they could leapfrog a few teams in the meantime. Ever since he came in for Tyrod back in 2020, Herbert has continually proven that he is one of those guys time and time again. In the 2.5 seasons he's played in LA, Justin has won Offensive Rookie of the Year, been to a Pro Bowl, and set NFL rookie records for touchdowns, yards, and completions. Not too shabby of a resume for someone who wasn't under the national spotlight at Oregon, and proof enough that he is one of the most talented young players in football. But here's the thing, everyone knows all this, so why am I making a video about him and the Chargers? Well, first off, I needed an idea, and second of all, I don't think people are quite recognizing what's going down in LA. It's one thing to play well when your Pro Bowl level wide receivers are healthy, but it's a whole nother to do the same with guys that were elevated from the practice squad. If you look at Justin's stat line this season, you wouldn't be able to tell that he's dealt with countless injuries from the receiving core to the O-line and everything in between. And that's why what he's doing is pretty special.
Can he keep it alive? Fires it. Caught! Inside the 10-yard line by DeAndre Carter.
Justin's not just putting up hollow stats. He's winning football games. And I mean, the Chargers are sitting at 7-6, so he must be doing something right. Although the Chiefs are at the top of the division and likely going to stay there the rest of the season, it seems like the Chargers are cruising to the 2 spot. It could probably get into the wild card if Herbert keeps up his level of play.
Again, Herbert moves the pocket, goes for Williams, brought it in, Mike Williams.
In his last game against Tua and the Dolphins, Justin was able to outduel the former Bama star without even trying, which is pretty ironic considering that Tua was taking the pick right above Herbert, and is very interesting to watch unfold since there has been a lot of regret about letting the Oregon star slide, which his performance only seemed to affirm more truly, because at least in that situation, Herbert was by far and away the better quarterback. Honestly, Tua was in a better situation and still underperformed, while Justin lifted the Chargers into the playoff picture, as they are now sitting at the 7th seed. But don't get me wrong, Tua is still a good quarterback. There's just something different about Herbert. Many think that Justin has what it takes to be not just one of the best quarterbacks in his class, but the best in the entire league, which would be crazy to say a few years ago, but could very well be the case soon enough. Herbert still has a way to go before he gets to that point, but he's proven himself year after year, and so I think it's only a matter of time before he plays well enough to earn some legitimate hardware. I've been talking big about Justin for the past few minutes, but honestly, I think he deserves every ounce of praise considering his ridiculous potential. LA hadn't done jack in the few years before he was drafted, and since then, they have become one of the most interesting young teams in the AFC, with what I believe is shaping up to be a pretty bright future.
Herbert, gonna go deep. Leaping for the ball and coming down with it is Mike Williams.
As long as Justin is able to play the well he's been playing the past few years, I can only imagine that the Chargers will somehow be in contention. They may not be like Mahomes and the Chiefs, who make the Super Bowl seemingly every other year, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a chance. For the past few decades, it feels like the Chargers have been somewhat in the mix year after year, but now with Herbert, I think there's a shot that they could actually win the AFC one of these years. Although Phillip wasn't able to do it in all his time in San Diego, Justin is a different breed of talent, the kind that makes a Super Bowl possible even if the odds are stacked against them. He and Joe Burrow are very similar in their ability to elevate teams that would do next to nothing without them, and I think it could make the two some of the best quarterbacks in the league before you know it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the two were to meet in some big playoff games sooner than later, because it seems like they're destined to cross paths eventually. But anyways, back to Herbert. And once again, he's already making history only a few years in, as he beat Andrew Luck's record of nearly 13,000 yards in his first 3 seasons. And funny enough, just below the two is another Colts legend in Peyton Manning. So needless to say, Justin is in good company. And upon that, the fact that he's done it in less time is all the more impressive. But if we're being honest here, everything about what Justin does is impressive. And as his number one target, and Keenan Allen would say, he's just getting started. He's going to blow the league away. It may seem like Herbert's been in LA for a decent bit of time, but he was only drafted 2.5 years ago, and yet has done more than most quarterbacks by a landslide. But even though he's had a ton of success, the one area where he hasn't is a very important one, and it's the playoffs. The team went 7-9 in Justin's rookie year, and barely missed the postseason the following year after this.
And Raiders in, Chargers out.
A bit of a sour note to end the year on, but you don't become great if everything's easy. So I think that it was exactly what Herbert needed in order to become the real deal. This year, LA is currently sitting at 7-6, and as I talked about earlier, they're currently sitting at the 7th seed if the season ended today. There are still a few more games before it's all said and done, but looking at the schedule ahead, I think the Chargers could honestly go 4-0, and if that were the case, then they could pretty easily secure a spot in the playoffs. For some reason, LA and San Diego before it have seemingly been allergic to winning the postseason, so if Justin could lead the team to some big wins, then I think it's all the more impressive considering the situation in LA. If we're being honest here, the Chargers would be struggling big time if they didn't have good old Herbert. And you know what? I think he has a talent to lead them to at least a playoff win or two over the next few years. Keep in mind that so far he's only had 2 tries, one of which he lost based on a crazy overtime game. So I'm sure that Justin is looking to change the narrative as soon as possible, and I think it could happen sooner than later based off his recent play. Since the team has nearly an 80% chance to make it based on the stats alone, and considering their pretty light upcoming schedule, along with the fact that they have players coming back from injury, I think that they could cruise into a spot, and so then it would just be on them to win the games that matter.
And that was really more of just a good defense.
He's got Williams deep on 3rd and 10. You can kiss him goodbye.
But as long as Justin is under center, I think that they'll be able to compete week after week. So if they could potentially be sitting at 11-6 going into the playoffs, then hey, maybe they could do something special. You never really know. But anyways, what do you guys think about Justin and the Chargers? Are they good enough to win some of the big games? Or are they just a regular season team? Comment down below your thoughts. Justin Herbert is one of the most impressive players, not just quarterbacks in football. And he's only just started. So let's say that I think he could become a legend when it's all said and done.
Herbert fires open, making the grab. Mike Williams down the sideline. High steps his way.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.